Well, the Zags are coming off of an impressive win last night, 83-63 over number 2 UCLA. And it's time to quickly turn the page as they now have a date set on Black Friday with the number 5 Duke Blue Devils.
Yeah, the Zags loaded schedule just continues. You get a 2-day break, and then you have your your third top 5 matchup of the season already for the Zags. We've seen these teams battled out before, and I guarantee you with the matchups you have in this game, you know Duke was watching that game against UCLA last night. This is going to be a fiery game, and I guarantee both teams are going to come out ready to go.
A lot of games going on in Vegas right now, a lot of different tournaments. The Maui Invitational was moved to Vegas. You have a ton of NBA scouts basically bouncing. They've got a whole buffet, a feast of prospects to go around and watch. And on Friday, that's what this narrative is going to be, is you have Chet Holmgren versus Paolo Banchero, really arguably the top 2 guys in next year's draft. And they're going to be able to watch them play head-to-head. These were guys who did get a chance to go against each other in the Iverson Classic, both of them having very strong outings. But as we go into this Duke game, I mean, you had a lot of hype, number 1 versus number 2 with UCLA. But Chet versus Paolo, that's what we're going to hear a lot as we work our way towards this matchup.
Yeah, anytime you see the number 1 and number 2 freshman recruits battle it out, of course, these two have been back and forth on NBA draft boards for that top overall pick. Both of these guys have skill sets that we haven't seen in a very long time given their size. Just an incredible matchup, and you know both of these fan bases are just absolutely insane right now. It is going to be just a crazy matchup in Vegas.
Very contrasting styles, though, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Paolo is really the more put-together, polished, maybe NBA-ready guy with his body and his skill set, very physical. He's got the ability to shoot from 3, pull up off the dribble, get to the rim at ease. He is an elite defender. Chet really has those intangibles, that upside that NBA scouts are really looking for, the way the NBA game has gone, where you've got a 7-footer who can dribble like a guard, shoot like a guard. I think people are going to drool over what can he become when he fills out, but we'll have a lot of fun watching these two guys duke it out. Now, we talked in our season preview, we were talking about this schedule, and you've got the Coach K farewell tour. Mike Krzyzewski is now in his final season at the helm for the Duke Blue Devils, and this is a guy, he came to Duke in 1980, started coaching in 1975 at Army. It is his 47th year as a head coach in Division I basketball, has a career record of 1,176 wins to 361 losses. That's good for a 76.5% winning percentage. Obviously a sure ballot Hall of Famer. And Duke does lead the season or the all-time series 2-1. Though the Zags did win the last matchup in Maui, and before that Maui game, that was a year that Zion and RJ, that team was getting compared to the Michigan teams, right, of the 90s. This was Duke really had Gonzaga's number, in the NCAA tournament. It really felt like that Maui win, which was an all-time great, just a great college basketball game, really was a big jumping off point for the success we've seen this Gonzaga team have over the last 5 years, obviously making 2 finals in the NCAA tournament. So these two teams do come in with a little bit of a history, but none of these kids on these teams were on those teams. We have whole new rosters. We're going to get into a breakdown really of what have these two teams looked like so far in the season. Where do we see, the matchups really playing out? We will give you at the end some final score predictions. If you haven't so far and you like the content we're putting up, please do subscribe, like the video, and do let us know down in the comments what you think. Give us your final score. We want to hear. We love hearing your guys' feedback.
Absolutely.
As we get into it. But let's talk about these two teams and what they've done so far this season. Duke was really put onto the national stage right away, playing in the Champions Classic at Madison Square Garden. They beat number 10 Kentucky in their first game of the year by a score of 79-71. In that game, Paolo Banchero and Trevor Keels really just put on a show.
Absolutely.
Trevor Keels, in that game, he goes out and scores 25 points, and you're like, who, freshman coming in, scores 25 points at the Garden. We know how good Paolo is. We know that he's a top 1 or 2 draft pick, but Keels puts on a show. We haven't seen, really the same game since. It kind of makes me wonder. We saw a little bit of this, with like Maxey at Kentucky, that is this a kid that just plays under the lights, which he's going to have a chance on Friday. But this Duke team has been tested early. They haven't really played anyone since that Kentucky game, but you got to give them credit for that. And then for the Zags, I mean, they played number 5 Texas at home, won 86-74. That game was not that close. I mean, they absolutely were in control that whole game. And then last night, the UCLA game for Gonzaga that we are all expecting. I mean, that Gonzaga-UCLA game in the Final Four last year is one of the greatest games in college basketball history. UCLA played near perfect in that, and I think expectations were high. They returned everyone. And we were about 5 minutes into that game, and it reminded me a lot of what happened to Gonzaga in the national championship. What Baylor did is they just came out. I think they were up 16-6 before the first time out, and UCLA really never was in that ball game.
No, that was just an impressive showing from Gonzaga. And, in our preview video for that game, I honestly thought that UCLA would be the team to come out and kind of punch the Zags in the mouth. But the Zags flipped that script. They jumped on them early. And we've talked about this a lot in our videos this season. Gonzaga's defense is real. They are, per Evan Maya Analytics, they are ranked number 1 defense in the country. And you saw it against UCLA. UCLA has a ton of firepower. And Gonzaga's length just made it very, very, very difficult for them. And I think a lot of it just comes down to, both these teams have some of the best recruiting classes in the country from last year. Gonzaga was number 4. Duke was number 6 per 24/7 Sports. And, you lose a lot of, you see number 1 Chet for Gonzaga, number 2 Paolo for Duke, and you kind of think that's the highlight of their class. But for Duke, you've got A.J. Griffin, the 18th ranked recruit. Trevor Keels was the number 23 ranked recruit. For Gonzaga, you've got Hunter Salas at number 20, Nolan Hickman at number 33. And these guys are all playing into both of these teams and helping them be what they are. I mean, Gonzaga's freshmen have been a huge boost to this team, really, really active on defense. And it's going to be another showdown because they've got a challenge like they haven't seen yet this season in Bankero coming up on Friday.
And let's not forget about Caden Perry, the number 57 recruit who's starting to play some meaningful minutes for this Gonzaga basketball team. One side story that I'm not sure is going to get talked about a lot going into this matchup. I mean, Bankero is a Seattle kid, O'Day High School. A lot of people thought he was going to go to UW. Gonzaga did make his list. I'm pretty sure he made a visit to Spokane. And I think it's just like, how in the world? You got Drew Timme coming back. You got Chet coming in. How in the world do you get 3 bigs playing, but ends up going to Duke? But a story I don't think is going to be talked about a whole lot is Paolo, along with Caden Perry and Nolan Hickman, did play on a club team over in Seattle together. So a lot of fun there. They're still friends. Paolo actually had a tweet during the offseason. It was a video, I don't know if you remember this, where it showed a guy like lacing up his shoes, not needing to like stretch, just coming out and being able to just dunk on people. And he's like, here's my boy Caden Perry, just walks into the gym. And so these guys, it's going to be talking about
each other.
Chet versus Paolo, but there's a lot of other, history between these two teams. Moving on, you talk about how good Gonzaga's defense has been. And I think that it's something that's going to be overlooked this entire season, because it's hard to, when you think of a traditional defensive team, you think of a team like a Chris Baird led team, Shaka Smart, a team that likes to get down in that half-court D, maybe throw this crazy trap or zone at you. Gonzaga's defense is not traditional in the sense that we think. It is a team that really creates a lot of turnovers, that length, the ability to get into passing lanes. Sure, they can come out and press you and do all that, but their ability to force turnovers, get out and run, which Mark Few wants to do, is why you said it very early. This team could finish as a top 5 defense in the country. Just don't be surprised. It's not a team that's going to sit down in a crazy half-court D. They're going to do a lot of things to put pressure on you, turn that defense into offense, and I think that's something we'll see in this matchup. Let's look at the team stats on the season. Points per game, pretty close. Duke averaging 85.8, Gonzaga averaging 91.5 points per game. Each team averaging 40 rebounds per game. They both are averaging 18 and 19 assists per game, respectively. Turnovers have been an issue for both teams. Duke averaging 8, Gonzaga averaging 11 turnovers a game. They had issues even last night versus UCLA turning the ball over. 3-point percentage, Duke is shooting 33%, while Gonzaga is shooting 35%. That number is going up for the Zags. 3-point attempts, Duke 24, Gonzaga 22.8. When we were going into that UCLA game, we've said the formula may be easy. If you want to beat Gonzaga, you make the three. It's a little harder with the length and their ability to switch the 1 through 5 to necessarily get good looks up. UCLA was shooting up to, 25, 27 three-pointers in a game. They only took 12 threes last night. I think that's just a testament to this defense that we're talking about. And three-pointers made, each team makes 8 threes per game. So I don't see necessarily this being a game that gets decided over who can shoot the long ball. I think both these teams can get to the rim, and I think, just Paolo's going to get his. We know that.
Absolutely.
There's so many guys on both teams. I think it's going to be kind of in between the lines. Like last night, we saw Andrew Nembhard absolutely go off. We could have another Andrew Nembhard game. We could have, I think that's really where this game's going to boil down to, is it's going to be made Chet versus Paolo, but I think we're going to really find out the winner of this game on maybe not as a flashy of a headline. Getting into the matchups, though, let's start with the guard position. Speaking of Andrew Nembhard, this is somewhere for me where this game's really going to be decided, and it is the guards. And Andrew Nembhard, 6'5" senior, averaging 9 points per game, 5 assists, 2.5 rebounds, shooting 39% from three. If you don't know about him, started his career at Florida, transferred to Gonzaga. Zags did not think they would have him last season. Did get a waiver to be eligible. That is a big reason that this team made it all the way to the championship game.
Definitely.
And for Duke, it's Jeremy Roach. He's a 6'1" sophomore, averaging 9 points, 3 assists, 2 rebounds, 1.5 steals, shooting 31% from three. Him and Trevor Keels, who we'll talk about in a second, were actually high school teammates, which is pretty cool. But talk to me a little bit about these two guys who really do run the show for their two programs.
Yeah, both of these guards, I think, do a good job of realizing the talent around them.
Yep.
And we talked about that going into the UCLA game, that Andrew Nembhard's stats going into that game were, maybe not the most appealing to the eye. And if you don't watch Gonzaga games, you're going to see those stats and maybe just say, okay, well, they're not very strong at point guard. But it really comes down to Nembhard's just ability to read defenses and get the ball to people who have a position to score. Last night, he had those positions. And I think what you saw at Nembhard as well was his ball handling has improved tremendously. I think in that Baylor game, we really felt that he kind of got suffocated. You could tell he was picking up his dribble early. And I think that was something he worked on this offseason, because he was able to really take advantage of guys off the dribble last night against UCLA. So if you give him room, if you focus defense elsewhere, Andrew Nembhard can take advantage of your defense. And Jeremy Roach on the other side, we talked about him in our preview, schedule preview this summer. We really thought that this team for Duke needed him to take a big jump. And you watch them play this year, and again, he's just doing such a good job of knowing his role.
Yep.
He knows he's got talent around him. And he's done a great job facilitating. He's a solid defender on the perimeter. With the guy, he has the ability to knock down some tough jumpers on the outside as well, some step-back threes. So not a guy you can sleep on by any means. But you're going to see, whichever one of these guards can facilitate to their scores is really going to give their team an advantage on Friday.
Roach really does what Nembhard does for this Gonzaga team, that he just puts his team in a lot of positions to get up good shots. There was a halftime interview of the UCLA game last night where Mark Few was just beaming ear to ear, which you do not see, just going off about Andrew Nembhard. And we talked about it when we were watching the game together. It's just how Nembhard may not be the most talented guard. He's very talented, but not the most talented guard Few's ever had. But he may be running this system that Mark Few wants to run better than he's ever had, and he knows that, and he loves seeing that. Moving on to the other guard matchup in this game, you've got a transfer for Gonzaga, Rasir Bolton, coming over from Iowa State, a 6'3" senior, averaging 10 points, 2 assists, 2.7 rebounds, shooting 52% from three. He is lightning in a bottle. We heard about his athleticism, his quickness. He's a guy that can push that tempo, get the ball up the court, blow past guys. And on the other side for Duke, it's Trevor Keels, the freshman, 6'4", number 23 recruit in the country, as you mentioned. He's averaging 13 points, 2.8 assists, 3.7 rebounds, and 2.3 steals per game. Shooting 5.7 threes per game at a 32% clip. And like we mentioned, he's got the ability to score a lot. He scored 25 versus Kentucky. And so I think that, we talk about this guard matchup being a big deal. You got the senior and Bolton versus the freshman and Keels. If Keels can score 25 points for Duke, Duke's going to have a real chance to upset Gonzaga and win this game.
Yeah, they definitely need some big games outside of Banchero, and Keels is one of the guys to do that for them. When I look at him, he's just such a physical presence on the perimeter. I mean, 6'4", 220 pounds. He is a very, very strong guard. He has that ability to get hot from three. It's a clean-looking jumper, so I don't think that 32% clip is where he's going to end the season at.
Agreed.
But his ability to get to the rim and take advantage of smaller guards has been really evident early on in this season. And you've got Bolton on the other side, who's 6'3", giving up a little bit of weight to Keels there. But like you said, man, he is lightning in a bottle. We talked about it early, how fast he was. And you really saw it in that UCLA game. When he got the ball in transition, if he noticed defenses backpedaling, he did it a number of times against Campbell last night. He put his head down and went straight to the rim. So you have to get back early because this Gonzaga team has a ton of speed. And he's not just an athlete in that sense either. He's shooting 52% from three on the season with a relatively high volume. So he is a well-rounded scorer who just is going to look for his spots to take advantage however he can. That's going to be an extremely, just really interesting matchup to watch.
I love this next matchup, and really it's that small forward position for both teams, and that's Julian Strother versus Wendell Moore Jr. I love both these kids. Strother, a 6'7" sophomore, averaging 14 points, 5.7 rebounds, and assists, shooting 48% from three. Going into this season, that was really okay, if we're going to nitpick this Gonzaga team, how are they going to get, you lose Corey Kispert, who's arguably the best three-point shooter in Gonzaga history. How are they going to do from behind the arc? Well, I'll tell you what, you got Julian Strother shooting 48% from three. You've got Rasir Bolton shooting 52% from three, and Andrew Nembhard shooting 39% from three. So I think they found their three-point shooting. And Julian Strother's a kid that I've said this on other videos. If you're a Duke fan learning about this Gonzaga team, this is a kid that I believed was very ready to contribute on that championship team last year. He's starting to really get that confidence going. We saw in the very first exhibition game, he scored 18 points in the first half of that exhibition game. I think that as he just gets more confident in his ability to, Mark Few's going to give him a green light in terms of shooting the basketball. He is a pure scorer. But on the other side for Duke, Wendell Moore Jr., a 6'5" junior, averaging 17.5 points per game, 5.7 assists, 6.3 rebounds, a steal, shooting 33% from three. He had 19, 10, and 10 versus Army. This is a kid that, what if I told you this really quick? You go back to the R.J. Barrett and the Zion Williamson days, way back for Duke, you had like J.J. Redick, those teams. What if I told you that Paolo Banchero and Moore were only the fourth Blue Devil teammates in the history of this storied program to score 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists apiece? They did that just the other night in their win on Monday evening. This group of Duke freshmen and, this starting five for Duke has the ability to have multiple guys come and score 20, 25 points on you. And we talk about, who's it going to be? Chet versus Paolo is not going to decide this game. This matchup could.
Absolutely. This is, again, we talked about in the summer, we talked about how Jeremy Roach needing to take a jump was so pivotal for this team. What neither of us anticipated, and Duke fans, you may have seen this coming, but Wendell Moore averaged 9.7 points a game his sophomore season. I think he was about 7.8 his freshman season.
Made a jump.
He's a very solid player during his career, but he took a huge jump for this team. And when you look at these star-studded rosters of these college basketball teams, now Gonzaga recently, but the Dukes, the Kentuckys, they're constantly rolling out these star-studded freshmen. But when you have an upperclassman who can help lead those freshmen and be a calming force out there, it makes you so much better. And Wendell Moore has been so pivotal for this Duke team. His ability to affect the game in really every category out there, give them another plus ball handler on the perimeter. It's been absolutely massive for them. And you look at, Keels' shooting. Wendell Moore is another guy who's got a very, very clean jump shot. He will knock down shots if you leave him open. But he's, again, another physical presence, 6'5", 220, can get to the rack on you. So He's such a talented player, and obviously is the reason I think Duke is as good as they are this year. Maybe the piece that people didn't expect as much, but Julian Strother on that other end, man, like you said, not someone to sleep on if you're not a Duke fan, if you haven't watched this team. Much like Moore, you might look at his stats last year and think they're a little, not appealing. Sat behind one of the best small forwards in the country, and he learned during that time, and his confidence is evident this year. We saw against UCLA, end of shot clock, Zags didn't have anything going on. They gave the ball to Julian Strother on a dribble handoff about 4 feet behind the line. He's able to knock down that three. Very, very talented scorer at all three levels. Can knock down a three to high clip. He's got floaters in the lane. He can finish at the rim. Definitely a guy, if you're Duke, definitely a guy you have to watch on the outside.
Well, let's talk about it now. It's the big storyline everyone's going to be talking about going into Friday's matchup, and that's the number 1 recruit in the country, Chet Holmgren, going up against the number 2 recruit, and Paolo Banchero. Chet Holmgren is now proof that unicorns exist. I mean, I think that the thing watching Chet is we keep seeing time and time again, and it's not going to stop. It's going to go into the NCAA tournament, is teams watch film. They see his stature, and they think, we can go at this kid. And I was talking to you last night about it watching the game, is until you actually try to put a shot up against Chet Holmgren, I don't think you can really understand the length that he has in his shot blocking ability. He's going to end up at some point in his career being an all-NBA defensive player. I mean, it's not just his length, it's his instincts. He is an elite shot blocker. He is a 7-foot freshman averaging 13 points, 6.7 rebounds, 3 assists, 3.5 blocks per game. He's also shooting 38.5% from 3. He had a play last night where he went up, he blocked a shot, he took it coast to coast, and then had just a rim-rattling dunk that you said to me, I think in the next commercial break, wait, I just realized that that whole play was off of a block and a coast-to-coast dunk. I mean, that's the whole unicorn thing that's coming into play now. He can do that. He can shoot 38% from 3. That is who Chet Holmgren is. And then on the other side, you have Paolo Banchero, 6'10 freshman from Seattle, number 2 recruit in the country, averaging 17.8 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, 1.5 steals, and 31% from 3. We said it earlier in the program that Paolo could go play on probably 20 different NBA teams and start tomorrow night. He just has a very NBA-ready game, very polished. He's going to get his. I mean, it is not about stopping Paolo Banchero. It's about how do you limit him from not scoring 30 on you. He's going to get his 18 to 20 points. And then after that Texas game, we heard a lot of, Chet kind of disappeared. Is he going to be able to step up in this big UCLA matchup? If you're playing this Gonzaga team, it is a pick your own poison. It is are you going to try and take Drew Timme away? Or are you going to try and take Chet Holmgren away? You do not get to do both. Even if you can do one, you don't get to do both. And last night we saw UCLA really focus on Drew Timme. And what that ended up being is Chet Holmgren really getting what he wanted down low.
Yeah, it's we haven't seen such a pick your poison situation in a long time in college basketball when it comes to, two bigs of that stature on one team. So, I mean, this matchup, while the UCLA game might have been the game that the entire country was waiting for, Paolo versus Chet is the individual matchup that I guarantee you all of college basketball and all of the NBA has been waiting to see. We may not see a better individual player matchup throughout the rest of the college basketball season. And like you said, man, Chet is proof that unicorns exist. Nobody should be able to do the things he does. On that play he had that you referenced, he had the block coast to coast. I mean, he also went behind the back and just broke Miles Johnson's ankles on that before that dunk there. So just an extremely talented player. When you look at Paolo on the other side, like you said, he is the most NBA ready player on this floor. He can start tomorrow. And I think his game is much more just throughout the entire game, you will see why he's NBA ready. Chet, you may see moments where you don't think so, but then you'll see him make plays and you get it. It's very, very evident, like you said. But this matchup, I mean, they're going to get their own, like you said. If one of them can just put on a show, they could sway it. But really, it's going to be interesting to see, can both of them stay on the floor for extended periods of time? Because if either one of them gets in foul trouble defending the other, it really will hamper both offenses if that happens for them. So I tell you what, man, I'm just as excited as every NBA scout there because this is just an absolute showdown between two stars out on the basketball court.
And the last matchup we're going to talk about is down in the post. That's Drew Timme versus Mark Williams. Drew Timme, the preseason college basketball player of the year, 6'10 junior out of Texas, averaging 18 points, 6 rebounds, 2.2 assists, shooting 64% from the field. We saw him absolutely go off for a career-high 37 points versus Texas. He had a very quiet 18 and 10 last night, something like that. And Mark Williams, I'll tell you what, I mean, Mark Williams is going to create a tougher challenge down low than what the Zags saw versus UCLA. He is a 7-foot, 242-pound sophomore, number 28 recruit in the class of 2020, averaging 8 points, 6 rebounds, 1.2 assists. I'm high on Mark Williams. I mean, I get it. Like, guarding Drew Timme, best post footwork in the country. He can put you in a blender, and so, I think going into this game, it's easy to say that, Drew Timme's gonna go Drew Timme on Duke. But I'll tell you what, I think that Mark Williams has the ability down low that this could be where this game gets swayed a little bit, is if he can get Drew Timme or Chet Holmgren in foul trouble, which he has the ability to do. That's another thing that could really change the outcome of this game.
Yeah, he's an imposing physical presence down low, and obviously for both teams, you got to keep your stars on the floor in this game. That's a must. Both of these teams are loaded. They have very, very good offenses. Gonzaga, per Evan Maya's analytics, ranks number 1 offense in the country. Duke ranks number 5 offense in the country, and it's very evident to see why. Mark Williams is definitely their anchor down low, and if he can just do his thing, he shoots 60% from the floor, so he's going to get good looks because of the talent around him. It puts a lot of pressure on the Gonzaga defense, especially being that you cannot double him. Most 7-footers, you're going to look at, dropping a perimeter defender down low to tag if they get that ball in the post. That is not an option against this Duke team. You have to stay locked in on their guys around him. So he's going to get his one-on-ones down low. Drew Timme, obviously, he's as advertised. I think even as Duke fans, you know who Drew Timme is at this point. It feels like he's been around forever. He's only a junior, but being that he started every game and finds himself in a lot of highlights, he is, like I said, as advertised, a National Player of the Year favorite out there. What we saw against UCLA was UCLA really, really focused on getting physical with Drew Timme before he got the ball. And in the first half, it really worked. It really kept him quiet. He couldn't get anything rolling. So if Mark Williams can do that, if he can bump Timme off of his spot, don't let him get the ball close to the rim, make him start working from further out, it makes it a lot harder. So we know Drew Timme will get his, though. I mean, he's averaging over 18 a game on the season. But if you can hold him under that, make other people beat you, it becomes very interesting out there. For me, this comes down to, can Duke's defense get on the same page? We've seen it in some of their games this year where their defense is just not crisp on rotations, and it's really pulled Williams out of position a lot defensively. And that can be a problem for Duke. So if they can get their rotations back on point, it allows him to play much more one-on-one down low and be that rim protector they need.
Some other names that could really play a big factor in this game for Duke: A.J. Griffin, 6'7 freshman, number 18 recruit. Joey Baker, 6'6 senior, averaging 7 points a game. A guy that there's 2 names that I really think for each team could play a huge role, but it may not show on the stat line. And for Duke, that's Theo John. He's a 6'9 senior. This is a former Big East all-defensive first-teamer. If the bigs get in foul trouble on either side, you want to talk about the depth on each team, which is going to really play a factor in this game. I believe Theo John's going to play a big role for Duke. And for Gonzaga, that's Anton Watson, a guy that may not fill up the stat sheet, but has the ability to be a major defensive presence, come in, rebound the basketball if he can just kind of play within his role like we talk about a lot. Another kid for Gonzaga is Nolan Hickman. This is a freshman. He'd be starting on probably all but 5 teams in the country, a guard that plays with a very mature style. And he's a 6'3" freshman, was committed to Kentucky, ended up switching to go to Gonzaga. He will play a major role in this game. Hunter Salas, a 6'5" freshman out of Omaha, Nebraska, that's starting to see more and more minutes. Super long, super athletic, can be a disruptor on defense. And then Caden Perry. You talk about the depth down kind of in the front court. Caden Perry's a 6'10" freshman who is just his motor goes 24/7, and so he's a high-energy kid. But those are some guys coming off the bench for each team that really could play meaningful minutes. Real quick, Steve, as we wrap up this video, give me your final score prediction for the game, 7:30 p.m. Friday night that we'll see between Gonzaga and Duke.
Tell you what, man, I've kind of gone back and forth on this game. I mean, this is just such a matchup that we get. I mean, to see, number 1 versus number 2 on Tuesday before Thanksgiving. We all get to go have a good turkey day, enjoy some family, some good food, come back the next day. You've got number 1 Gonzaga against number 5 Duke. This is going to be a great game. To me, the difference maker in this game is Gonzaga's defense. We talked about it already during this video. This defense will end, I think, as a top 3 defense this year. This is length that we have not seen them have in the past. They're very active in the passing lanes. They can make life really difficult. And of course, with Chet down low, we talked about it. Physicality is not size. It is a mindset. And Chet is a dog down low. He can change a game. I think Gonzaga comes out 83-70. It's going to be a little bit closer in the second half. A much better game, I think, than we saw against UCLA. But I do think Gonzaga pulls away towards the end. 83-70 is my final score prediction.
I want to see if Duke can withstand that initial Gonzaga surge. If they can, I think we're in for a very close game. I think it's easy to watch what Gonzaga did to UCLA and think, wow, what are they going to do to Duke? Let's hit the brakes a little bit. I want to see if Duke can withstand that first 5-10 minute surge from the Zags. And then after that, I mean, Duke hasn't played since Monday. This reminds me of like that second weekend where you had a week to prepare. They weren't necessarily preparing for the Citadel, and so I think that this is a team that will be well coached, have a good game plan going into it. I'm very interested to see what Duke does trying to pull Chet away from the rim. Can they get him in foul trouble? I think it's a very interesting matchup. I have Zags winning 82-74 as my final score prediction. Let us know down in the comments how you think Friday night's game will go. Going to be a lot of fun. Gonzaga versus UCLA may not have lived up to expectations. Well, guess what? We got another chance for an all-time great Friday night at T-Mobile Arena. It's at a 7:30 p.m. tip-off. Gonzaga versus Duke in Sin City with a lot to play on the line. We're going to find out 1 seeds, 2 seeds, who's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. We'll find out Friday night in Las Vegas.